Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today is kind of a special day. I'm really enjoying my Mondays, I gotta say. Today, we're going to be interviewing Colleen Pearl. Pearl is the Cool Crone, and I wanted to talk with you because, first off, I love the name of your channel. But also, I really love what you do. Can you tell people a little bit about what you do and how you got started?
Yeah, I do astrology and tarot and Egyptian card readings. And I've been doing a channel not quite a year. So it's a very tiny new little channel. But I've been doing astrology and tarot cards for a very, very long time. And I really just enjoy helping people, really. I mean, getting in there, hearing what's going on with them, and hopefully helping illuminate their issues and seeing their way out, how they can help themselves.
I like that. And when did you first become interested in being a reader?
Well, the astrology part came first, and I just felt a real calling to do astrology. I remember, first of all, I'm the youngest of four children, and my oldest brother, who was 10 years older than me, was already talking about astrology, probably by the time I was 4 years old or something. And when I learned how to read, I remember grabbing my dad's newspaper and looking at the horoscopes. And I read them for a little while, and I remember thinking, this can't be right. They can't be writing a horoscope for millions of people just based on the range of birthdays. So I started looking for information about astrology, and most people learn how to read at around the age of 6. So that was unusual. And for some reason, my parents didn't stop me from doing any of that. And about that time, my brother, who was into astrology, started trying to get books for me. There wasn't very much available, though. This is the 60s, and it was, it was limited. It was
Linda
unusual, huh?
I think it was Linda Goodman, right?
Yes.
She had her book, and I think we all gravitated to that book.
Exactly. So we all grabbed that book. So my brother goes away to college, and he ends up, his first girlfriend is an astrologer, and he brings her home for Christmas break, and she says, "Oh, your little sister is into astrology." So they hoof it off to the local university district where there is a bookshop where you can get astrology books. And they bought me, not Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, because that I don't think had been published at that time. They bought me a book by Joseph P. Goodavage called Write Your Own Horoscope. And it was this little tiny paperback where you could figure out rising signs and just roughly what people's planetary arrangements were. And that got me started. And then, of course, his next girlfriend was a much better astrologer. she gave me actual lessons. But by that time, I was like 9 or 10 or something, and I could do math. So she taught me how to do the math, and the math was wicked difficult. Oh, it was really, I don't know how I did the math at that age. But by the age of 10, I had learned how to do the horoscopes with all the math and everything. And by, I think, 11 or 12, I was starting, well, yeah, definitely by 11, I was doing charts for my family. And by 12, I was doing charts for people at the school or my teachers or whoever would listen.
Incredible. I'm really impressed. So
that was wild.
And did you know, in terms of the psychic abilities, like in terms of just having intuition, was that something that came to you naturally? Did you always know you had psychic abilities? Or?
I knew I always wanted to be psychic. I always wanted to be a witch, to be psychic, to know things before other people knew. And I kept looking at my chart and my horoscope and going, you must be psychic. You must have this ability. But I didn't really see it in myself. I have a weird chart where, you highly doubt everything. I mean, I think imposter syndrome the phrase was invented to describe the way I feel about myself always. And yet I was making predictions for people and doing charts for people at a very early age. So I guess I must have been at that age, but it didn't feel like it to me. It just felt like I was kind of doing my job. Oh, well, I did their chart, and so I had to tell them this. And I remember when I did start doing charts, one of the real foremost impressions that I had was that as I looked at that paper with all the symbols, all the glyphs, all the little squiggles on it, it spoke to me. It told me things. And so I called it channeling at the time. I was kind of like looking at the symbols and getting the information about the symbols and telling it back to my client, the friend that I was doing the chart for. And I would get done and they would ask me questions about it. And I'd be like, I don't know. So something was happening there, just looking at the symbols. And so
you were locking on the target, and when you locked on the target, that sounds like you were doing HCRV. You were mostly attached to the target through astrology, and then as you meditated on the target using astrology, you wound up remote viewing and getting all the Akashic data while you were at it. So that's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so my sister thought, wow, this is cool. I could get more information out of my little sister. So she bought me a deck of tarot cards when I was 10. And I looked at them, and they were the old French deck, not the Rider-Waite deck, but the old French ones that they're almost like playing cards, except there are 78. And so the suit cards are not visually descriptive. They're just like, 6 swords or 6 batons or whatever. And so that didn't do the same thing for me as astrology. So I had the cards and, okay, they're all right. And then when I was about probably middle school or maybe 12 years old or something, I got a little mini deck of the Rider-Waite. And those pictures meant a lot more to me. But it wasn't until I was really much older that I worked with somebody who was very, very psychic and really good at tarot cards. And she taught me a lot about cards. In fact, she's the one that taught me the Egyptian style of reading cards. So when I was in college is when I finally started reading tarot cards. But up until then, it was mainly astrology.
God, that's incredible. So listen, I have a couple questions. You've done a lot of charts, right? You've done a lot of charts. Have you ever done charts of famous people? And if you have, of all the people you've done readings of that are, looked at famous people's charts, done cards of, who would you say has the most fascinating chart? And what can you tell us? Like, what did you learn from that experience of doing that chart?
It's got to be Donald Trump. His chart is really, really interesting. He was born during an eclipse, and he has I think the star Regulus on his Star of the Kings on his rising sign, right on the cusp of his ascendant. He's got a lot of planets that are just exactly lined up with planets for the United States chart. And I use the Sibley chart for the United States, the one that's actually written when they signed the Declaration of Independence, not when they did,
I agree with that,
what they did with the Constitution. Yeah. And it's frighteningly lined up with the USA chart. And so it was really, when he was running for president, I was really looking at his chart, and I was listening to both Vedic astrologers on YouTube and Western astrologers on YouTube. And it was just, I had lived in New York for about 20, 25 years. So I knew who Donald Trump was. And it took me so long to wrap my head around the idea that this guy was actually going to legitimately run for president. He'd run so many times before. And he was just such a clown, such a joke. And I was like, how could this guy even begin to take it seriously? He's a con man. He's a grifter. He's a cheat. He's gone bankrupt a bazillion times. Why would we want him in the White House? And the Vedic astrologers were looking at his chart and saying, this guy is going to affect great change. He's going to be very powerful and impactful for the United States. But they didn't know how right they were. he has done all those things, and it's because of that deep astrological connection that he has with the chart of the United States. But going back to just him being born on an eclipse, that's a sign of kings and queens. They're born and they die with eclipses. And as I looked at his chart, I was just like, can we hope that he's just going to die on the next eclipse? I mean, I don't mean that. I'm joking, but can we hope that the demise of his presidency, the demise of his power, maybe will die with an eclipse? But so far it hasn't. But wow. So he's definitely the most fascinating one.
How do you think it'll end? When you look at his chart, how do you think it'll end?
I think that he has some things coming up in his chart that are going to hurt him a lot. I think he's going to be hurt legally. I think financially he's going to be hurt. I think his family's going to hurt him. I don't see a beautiful ending for the end of his life. And I think that, his health doesn't seem to be that good. He doesn't seem to really take care of himself. So, and I think it's just going to feel, I don't think people are going to be joyful at his demise. I think a lot of people are just going to be very, very sad about it, because it is very, very sad.
Have you ever done astrology on the royals? For example, have you ever done Princess Diana or Prince Harry? Or we like Prince Harry here.
Yeah, I like the royals. They're very interesting to look at astrologically. I haven't done just a specific chart on any of them per se, but I did do last summer. I did a video about eclipses. I did a couple of videos about eclipses, and I went through where eclipses were important in several of the royals' charts. Like Prince William was also born on an eclipse.
Wow.
I think his son and maybe his wife, maybe Kate, is also born on an eclipse. Wow. And I think his first son is also born on an eclipse. So those people will definitely ascend to the higher parts of the monarchy. They're destined for that. But I haven't looked at Harry and Meghan. But the Queen, I mean, she was born on an eclipse.
Yes. Yeah. I imagine she was.
Yeah. Wow. But Charles was not. Prince Charles was not. So I don't think he'll ever be king.
Well, a lot of people think he will be king, but they don't know how long, or I don't know. I mean, It is interesting, like how people have different destinies, and how people we're all born different, and we're all born unique, and we all have our unique challenges, and that's, it's just very interesting.
Yeah.
The question I get a lot, the two main questions I always get is, number one, the economy. People are terrified about the economy because they see the rise in homelessness, foreclosures, loss of jobs, etc. Have you ever done any readings on our economy? Do you have any predictions about where you think we're headed? Or?
Well, the country is coming up on a Pluto return. It's a few years away, but not many. I think it's about 4 years to the completion of it, maybe a little longer. And most entities, definitely people don't come up with Pluto returns, because it takes Pluto almost 250 years to come around to its same spot. But this country, when it turns 250, is going to see that Pluto return. And Pluto is exposing all the inequities in our society. It's exposing the injustices and the corruption, and not just in our federal government, but in most governments across the country. So I don't hold out a lot of hope that our economy will end up being what we would recognize as an economy now. I think that things are going to change dramatically. I don't know what money's going to look like. I don't know what currency is going to look like. I don't think, things that you put in your pocket are going to be what we use for energy exchange. I think it's going to be a much different kind of world. I mean, I think COVID was the most dramatic change maker of all of that. But a lot of things in our recent history have pointed, I mean, Donald Trump too, the whole thing of just shaking up the government, shaking up the economy, shaking up the healthcare system, shaking up the food industry. I
Yes.
mean, all of these things are shaken. They're changed. They will never go back to the way that they were. They're not meant to. And I think that people have a hard time wrapping their heads around that. But that's what Pluto does, is it kind of forces you to change. If you can come willingly, and you can look at things and go, yeah, maybe this isn't working, and so maybe I should embrace the change. Or you can, hang on for dear life, like that, what is it, the Four of Pentacles in the tarot. You hang on for dear life to everything you've got, and then the universe just picks you up like a little bug and says, no, 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 you're going to change, and throws you against the wall, and you are stunned for a while. And then when you come to, you have to embrace it. That's kind of what I see going on in all of those industries, the food industry, the government, the money, the healthcare. I just don't see that we're going to be able to go back to what we thought it was going to be. And I think the whole administration of Donald Trump coming in was just that last gasp, that last hanging on of what we thought of as, the father knows best era, that 1950s, early 60s, everything is rosy and golden, and we all drive around in a convertible. That's just not reality anymore. It's 60, 70 years later. And think of 70 years prior to the 1950s. I mean, life was so different. And it's going to be different again. It's going to be way different. And, we started out the year with all the planets in Aquarius. And I think that is allowing people who are more forward thinking to take the reins. Not to
I think it's
control it.
positive. We need science to take the reign. I'm
We
happy
do.
that Aquarius is here. Reality check. I mean, I feel also that that my readings have changed, that my meditations have changed. And I feel that my higher self, my spirit guides, my, whatever you want to call it, my higher self, I feel more integrated. I feel like now I can see reality without telling myself a story, and I can deal with reality.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not what's going on. This is what's going on. I need to fix it.
Yeah. Well, you're an Aries, right?
I am an Aries with Leo rising and a moon in Aquarius.
Oh. So, wow. So you had all those planets going through your seventh house. Very interesting. So now you're forming all these partnerships with people out in the internet, which is ruled by Aquarius. That's very interesting. And, everybody's finding where Aquarius is in their chart. That's one of the things that I talked about in one of my astrology videos. You're in the past, if you were in the 1950s mindset, you would just think, oh yeah, I have a crazy Aquarius friend. They're so nutty. They just, they think we're going to ride around in flying cars. And it's like, well, we haven't got the cars flying yet. But remember when video talking on the Jetsons was just like, whoa, it's so new,
Well, they're going to use drone technology now, which is kind of bizarre that drones will be able to carry, a couple people. You program it just like a drone, and then you just go, it's like a flying car, and you just fly. But don't you think, I wonder how they're going to keep us from like hitting each other? Because we already have the drone technology, and now they just need to make passenger. I mean, it's actually going to happen pretty fast, I would think now. I mean,
well, they've got the cars that can park themselves, right? And they've got the cars that can help you avoid accidents. So I think that they just have to marry that technology to the drones, and we've always had radar.
I think it's so cool though. You get inside your drone, you punch in your coordinates. I got to get to the office. You sit, you read a book, you land. I mean, it's just so cool. And
did you ever watch Westworld? That's how they got around.
Yeah, but but we're almost there. I mean, Musk and Branson and all the others, it's just with the tubes and everything. And they're talking about floating cities. At first I thought they were nuts. They were talking about this stuff 25, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, oh my God, they're going to do it. They're really going to do it.
Yeah, they are doing it. And it's taken until now for all the like the Jupiter Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, that, or in wherever it was back in 2020, that started opening up everybody's minds, because we have had this technology, but allowing people to embrace it mentally, they can, and spiritually in their hearts. It's one thing to just know something intellectually, quite another to embrace it and be emotional and excited.
Yeah, and I because I believe in evolution, because I believe in data and science, I know we will save ourselves, because we have this amazing thing called a prefrontal cortex now that helps us maneuver ourselves in the world in ways that are pretty remarkable. So I think we are evolving towards perfection. So I'm optimistic about the future.
Me too.
All right. I would be remiss if I didn't ask about the astrology of President Joe Biden. I know everyone's going to want to know, and people are going to be frustrated and angry. You talked about Trump and not Biden. I know he's a Scorpio, and I know he's got his hands full. What can you tell us about the Biden presidency that we don't already know?
Well, he's, I haven't done an in-depth dive on him. That's one of the videos that I want to do coming up, but he has such a lovely aura about him. And he and Kamala Harris have such beautiful astrology, both with the chart of the United States of America and with each other. So when people kept saying, he's the man for the time, truer words were never said. He really is. I mean, that Scorpio sun is surrounded by lots of lovely, lovely planets in very amiable signs. And you can see even with, when he switches gears into foreign policy, he really knows what's going on. That beautiful Scorpio shrewdness is being really focused in on each and everything that needs to be done. And he's old enough and mature enough that he really takes his time with each thing. And I so appreciate that he's not just like losing his train of thought. No, he's laser focused on each and everything. And he's not letting himself be rushed or distracted by any kind of nonsense going around. I mean, it's just so, I mean, it's his time personally, it's his time in his life. I don't think that he could be as good of a president that he's going to be if he had won one of his previous presidency bids. I think this is the time in his life because, man, he's coming up on the Uranus return. Most people never see that because they don't hit his age. But I mean, he won't hit it until he's 84. But the closer he gets to it, the more he can feel it. And the Uranus return is wild. That's when you kind of, the top half of your brain just kind of like shoots off, just like pops up, like those old commercials for Jet where the purple smoke just came popping out of their heads. That's what the Uranus return is. Now at 44, you get a Uranus opposition. And that's when you get guys that, leave their wives, buy a red sports car, have an affair, or they turn around and they go, oh, I really got to figure out my priorities in my life. And I'm having all these feelings. And then him and his wife, renew their vows and have a beautiful relationship. So it's one or the other. Now, Biden had that with Jill. And now he's old enough that he can see down the end of the road. You notice how strong his spirituality is.
Yes. Yeah.
It's such a like a beam, a ramrod in him. It's just the core of his being is that spirituality. And that Scorpio intensity is just like wrapped all around it like a caduceus, it's just, that's also kind of showing on the outside his Kundalini energy on the inside. That's the Uranus energy, actually. And when you come to the halfway point at 44, that Kundalini energy is rising. And you spend the next 44 years of your
what
life.
Is that about the Kundalini rising? When does that happen?
44. Or maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later, but right around
why does Kundalini start to rise at 44? I never really
because Uranus is electricity, and our bodies have electricity in them. And when Uranus sparks its opposite point in its chart, so you're born and it's in one place. By the time you're 44, it's 180 degrees around the chart. And so it stimulates your own Uranus, which is your desire for freedom, for individuality.
I definitely felt things change energetically. And I felt this energy coming over me, like the Kundalini started really moving.
Yes.
But for me, it happened at 50. I mean, I physically felt energetic shifts, like when I would do yoga, etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's positive, right? I mean, it's
yes, it's very positive. I mean, some people feel uncomfortable with the energy because it is very sexual and it comes up from the root chakra, from the or base chakra. I mean, it comes up literally from the bottom of your spine all the way up. And its goal is to get to your crown chakra, right? So while it's going, it's activating all your chakras all the way up. And wherever you're uncomfortable with your chakras, you're really going to be uncomfortable with your life. So you have to either embrace it or you're going to go kicking and screaming into that shakeup of that chakra. And so now Biden is going to be at 84.
So interesting to me.
Yeah. See, he's going to be facing what most people face. I know my mother, when she was 82, started to feel this. And she she was a little farm girl from Iowa. She married, a guy that she met in the big city of Des Moines, Iowa. He became a doctor. They moved out to Seattle. And she was, very traditional. She was raised in a very traditional way. But when she had her Uranus return, oh my goodness, everything went out the window. She was able to embrace all of my kind of philosophies, which she had never squelched my exploration into metaphysics. She had always been very supportive, but kind of arm's length, like, I don't believe it, but honey, you do you. That was kind of it. And once she got closer to that Uranus return, she was just like, now tell me more about that. What is that about? She started taking supplements. She started meditating. She started, talking about other worlds, other planets, everything other. And I was amazed. She had come to live with me. She was in Seattle and she came to New York, where I was living then. And I couldn't believe, I was like, oh, am I going to have to hide these things from her? Because, I'm a witch and I do certain devotions and I have my daily practice and I do rituals and I was raising my kids this way. And oh no, she was right there. I was like, go mom. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So one last question before we close today. Speaking of being a good witch, what do you think the future is for the environment? And are you do you ever do what I do? Because I'm constantly communicating with the mother of the earth, the Gaia. What do you need, mama? She comes first. Well, we have to take care of ourselves first, of course, but my business, my practice, everything is for her.
That's beautiful.
Well, I think that's true for you too, right? She's our mother.
I think, yeah. I don't maybe it's just it's like the thing with astrology when I was a kid. Like, I don't think that there's any other way to be. Like, when I see people who are not paying attention to that, I'm just like, wow, what went wrong in their childhood that they can't do that? Like, what's wrong?
So what do you think the future of the planet's going to be? Are we going to save the planet? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, the planet's going to save itself. It's Mother Gaia is like a very large shaggy dog that can shake off the fleas at a moment's notice. We are little specks. We're allowed to live here, and I do think that we are waking up. I hope it's not too late. I hope that we can make enough changes and do enough. Is it reparations or is it just changing the way we live? Are we doing it for her? Are we doing it for us? Because honestly, the things that we've been doing to the earth are not good for us any more than they're not good for the planet. So it's kind of a handshake deal. Like you really got to search yourself. If you're doing things that are not good for your own body, then they're definitely not good for the world. But back to just the planet. she's going to be fine. But we do have to change the way we're doing things. And I think we are going to. I think this big push of all the planets in Aquarius has given so many more people permission to support green ideals and green ideas, green industry. And I saw this a little portion of a documentary last night about a woman in Australia who has figured out so many ways to use our horrible, horrible refuse, the so much stuff that we throw away. She's able to make steel out of plastics. I mean, she's brilliant. She's already won a couple of awards, and the name of that award escapes me, but it's just amazing what she's doing. And people like that are getting noticed. People like that, their ideas are being invested in and supported. And that's how we're going to save ourselves. It's not, people like you and me just taking care of our little portion of the world and our little portion of the earth. Yes, we're like little hubs in a wheel. Everybody that radiates out from us gets a little bit of that from us. And then, they do their thing, and then people radiate out from them. So, that's the good news. But there's still people who just don't give a crap. And I think that those people will be, not a reckoning, but they will have a come to Jesus moment, I think, very soon, because something will hit them. I mean, we already had COVID, and that has, shaken up the economy. And that has shaken up the healthcare system. And so people in all of those areas are being tapped on the shoulder by the universe and saying, are you really doing the right thing here? Maybe you want to think about the way you're approaching things. And I think that's, I think people are being changed by that. So yeah, I think Mother Gaia will be fine. I think whether we survive or not is the question.
I think we will. I believe in us. I believe in humanity. I believe in our compassion. And I believe our compassion will save us. That is what I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, I really enjoyed this interview so much that I want to ask if you'll come back again.
Oh, I'd love to. I would absolutely love to. It was really nice. Like I told you before when we met, I just feel like I'm talking to an old friend. It just feels so natural.
You're so sweet. I feel the same way. Now, your name, Colleen Trusler, is your private name, but they know you professionally as Colleen Pearl. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if people would like to get an astrology or a tarot reading with you, they can go to the Cool Crone. Mm-hmm. Also, you have a website?
Yeah, the Cool Crone.
TheCoolCrone.com.
Yep.
That is so easy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you very much for this really absolutely fabulous interview. I'm so glad that you could come and spend time with me today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It just blew my mind when you mentioned it. And I was just like, that would be awesome. Because I wanted to talk to you some more. So
I saw your channel and I was surprised that nobody was watching your channel. I was like, I gotta talk to you. We gotta make this happen. So I'm glad that we could. And before we close, just want to let everybody know to be sure and share, like, subscribe, and click the bell notification. And don't forget to check out The Cool Crone and Colleen if you'd like to find out more about her work and you'd like to get a reading with her, because I think she's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you all the folks that decided to join us today. And we'll see you next time. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.